Welcome, everyone, to another edition of the Advisor's Guide to Estate Planning, where today we are excited to talk with Vieng Bounnam. She's a certified financial planner and practitioner at Fulcrum Wealth Management Group, here based largely in the Pacific Northwest. Portland, Vancouver today is where Vieng is. Vieng has been an advisor with Fulcrum for 25 years, not to age you, but easy number to remember. It is 2025, and it's been 25 years for you. Fulcrum's an incredible office. They have 6 offices, 12 advisors, 25 staff, have been working with the Encore team for a long time. Vieng, welcome, and thank you for spending time with us today.
Thank you, Matt, for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, excited to kind of just learn, who you are, how you do what you do, why obviously is a big part of understanding somebody and why you've chosen to work with Encore. But I would love to just start. The best part is stories. And so I'd love to hear your background of how you came into financial services, how you got on this career, and then maybe even a little bit into how you got into doing it the way you are doing it, and that has led you to estate planning being an important function of what you do.
Yeah, it's really ingrained from me from a pretty young age, not to age myself or go back too far, but I was born in Laos, which is a country in Southeast Asia. My dad was in the Laos Royal Air Force at the time when the U.S. was going through the war over there in Vietnam and Asia in general. So my dad was working alongside U.S. military. And when the U.S. military abruptly left Laos, that left a little bit of a gap for us and our family and our community. So in the middle of the night, a few years old, my mom's got me strapped to the back of her, and we walk across the border into Thailand because a lot of the communists were taking over at the time, and they were seeking out a lot of military that had been working with the U.S. So it was really imperative for us to leave, and lived in a refugee camp in Thailand for a year before we got sponsors out of Portland, Oregon, to be able to sponsor us to move here into the U.S. So all was great so far. Unfortunately, when I was still fairly young, my dad passed away from a car accident. He got hit by a drunk driver. And we were so new in the country, didn't know anything about financial planning, didn't know anything about life insurance. My parents didn't qualify for Social Security. My mom got married to my dad when she was 17, high school education. She has 3 kids. She was a stay-at-home mom. So she basically had to work 2 jobs, 3 jobs sometimes, just to make ends meet. We grew up very poor. So when I got out of high school, was going through college, had an aptitude for finance and business in general, and really recognized that my family didn't have to experience that. We didn't have to be poor or grow up if we had just, done some financial planning, and especially like life insurance. When I first started, so many of my colleagues didn't like life insurance, didn't want to talk about it. For me, it was like, bring it on, the value of what that could transform someone's life. So that's a little bit about me.
Fascinating. There's a whole bunch. We could spend 30 minutes. I would love to just dive in and hear more details of that, because the formation really it's the formation in the young part of our life that just bakes in some really important values. And your story is incredible. Within your out of high school, were you on a track to go to college, or was that informative? I mean, obviously, fully understand immigrant families, how hard the next generation works to make the most of the sacrifice that mom and dad went through. Is that something that was wired into the decisions you made to even go to college? Because I'm sure you had to bootstrap your way through college. There wasn't a college fund there for you. Maybe tell me more about that, because that kind of value set, and as you're young and setting your course or thinking about your life, what informed you there?
So I always had a really great aptitude in school and always did really well in school. I always assumed that I was going to go to college. It wasn't really even embedded, just because, again, I was the first in our generation to basically go to college. But I knew that was my track. And so when I went to college, I didn't know what I was going to study, didn't have the finances to do that. So thankfully, there was a small college out of the East Coast that reached out to me, and based on just kind of how well I did in school and my test scores, I almost got a full scholarship for college.
Wow.
Obviously really helped if you think about how much
Sure.
college is, even 25
Yeah.
years ago, right? When I went to college 30 years ago. So, and I just basically decided, oh, I'm going to stick with kind of business because I had a great teacher in high school that was one of my business teachers. And I was part of DECA in high school. We opened a small first interstate bank in our school to be able to teach other students about banking and finance. So that kind of formed a little bit about what I wanted to study and what I wanted to do when I went to college.
That's great. And then so business administration as the degree, I'm sure that was a big deal for your family for you to be able to launch. Where were you? Sorry, it just informs me a little bit, but where were you in the birth order of your siblings? You said you had two
A lot of
siblings?
people ask that. I'm the middle child. So
Okay.
apparently I act like an older child.
The higher the responsibility gene, I guess, and I see it in my siblings and I see it in my kids. The first ones usually got that extra responsibility, but the middle child, that's great too. So out of school then, what was the career path? You talked about earlier in your career recognizing the value and importance of life insurance. And so maybe inform me there because maybe that makes sense.
I thought I wanted to go into banking. So, I went to your traditional, at the time, Washington Mutual Bank, right, which is now part of Chase. And said, well, okay, I'll start from the bottom. I could be a teller. I could do anything. And I guess coming out of college with not a lot of experience, there wasn't a lot of jobs that were paying well, that were doing it, anything. So stumbled onto, at the time, it was American Express Financial Advisors. And I was like, well, it's a name that I know well. This is a brand that makes a lot of sense. Financial advisory, financial planning. So I interviewed with them. And I thought it was great that I got hired. But back then, the philosophy was just, we're going to hire a bunch of young, smart people. And we know a lot of them are going to fail. We're just going to hire a ton of them. And whoever sticks, right? And so I stuck. So
go sell.
Yeah.
I love that. That was my first job after college. I went on with Northwestern Mutual, and I didn't stick. I wasn't good enough. So you're way better than me.
You found your calling.
I made it a year or so, and realized, okay, financial services as an advisor isn't for me, but I've always liked finance, and I found another way to, work in the finance field without being the person who had to go out and, sell people. And the weight for me of people's life savings was high. And I was like, you know what, maybe it's too much of a weight for me to carry, and I'm not good at this. I'll go find something else. But got great training, which set me up for a career. And so you made it there. Did you just kind of start on your own, and it was, go out and, it's a little bit more product sales to make a living early in the days? How did that inform? Because obviously where I'm going with this is I know you've become very holistic in your approach. I'm assuming you had to be a little more transactional in the early days. Maybe tell us more about that.
I think that's where kind of the value when I grew up of like life insurance is not something that I fear. I really see the value in that. And that helped in the early days just because, you have to be able to survive to be able to be here 25 years later. And, it was it's totally different today for I think these kids starting in the industry. But I did things like stand at Costco and hand out chocolate, right? Just to get somebody to talk to me, go to restaurants with a fishbowl and have people put in their business card and buy them free lunch while I'm sitting there talking to them. So cold calling, they called it warm calls. Here's the definition of a warm call. A warm call was maybe 10 years ago, somebody requested information from our company. They've talked to 3 or 4 different people over the years, told them they're not interested. But at some point, we know decision points in people's lives, right? That they are now ready to make those decisions and ready to meet with somebody. And so, again, all numbers job, right?
Yep.
You talk to 100 people and 10 people will actually talk to you for more than 5 minutes, and one person would actually agree to come in and meet with you, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So it's a lot of that in the early days.
It's the hard work and just a numbers game, and you just got to, run the numbers. But your story must have been so powerful in, and your confidence and your conviction is really, we know that conviction matters into the transfer of helping people understand what's important. And so as you evolved there, what was kind of the steps in your career that made you begin to think more holistically? What took you on that path? There's still a lot of advisors today that don't take something like estate planning or tax planning seriously, and they're asset managers, and they've kind of got that realm. Obviously, you evolved from that transactional world into being more holistic. Tell us maybe about that journey.
Yeah, even in the beginning, we really talked about the College of Financial Planning and the 6 key areas of financial planning, which estate planning and tax planning do come into place. So even from the very beginning, we were recommending that. But it was a little bit different, that we would basically be like, okay, we are going to charge you a financial planning fee one time ever so that we can look at these 6 key areas and see where your gaps are and help you with that, right? So that did over time evolve into, why are we doing this one time when the client starts working with us? We know that their situation and their goals are going to change dramatically. The investment environment is going to change. Tax laws are going to change. So then it slowly got to, well, we need to do this on an ongoing basis, right? Do an annual financial planning. And then it was still more focused on, even though the 6 key areas has estate planning and tax planning, we're still focusing a lot on investment planning, right? Protection planning, which I think are the easiest pieces of those pies. I would say maybe, a decade ago, really started saying, okay, we need to be more holistic with our planning, because not only because that I want to provide value to our clients, but that's what clients are demanding, right? That's what they're looking for. Then like maybe roughly 5 years ago, prior to working with you guys, I would always refer clients to CPAs, refer them to estate planning attorneys. But they would either not do it because they're like, wait, this is expensive and we need to think about it, or I'm meeting a stranger and I'm sharing all this personal information with them. I don't know how comfortable it is, or just like the rest of us, right? It's really just pushing things off. We know we need to do it, but we're procrastinating. So easy to procrastinate in everything in our life. Right? So then fast forward to 5 years ago, when I was like, okay, here is a new relationship we have with EncorEstate, and it is going to allow us to do trust-based planning, because I had already been talking to a lot of clients. We're seeing here in Oregon and Washington, and probably California, West Coast in general, how long probate is taking, what difficult process it is, when we can easily eliminate that with clients' irrevocable trust. So having that discussion with them, and a lot of clients not realizing, well, I have a will. Doesn't that encompass it all? Nope, a will is not going to help you to avoid probate. You really need the revocable trust to do that. So that was just kind of the first awakening for clients. So that's when we went into the relationship with you guys.
As you started that, was it intimidating? I think there's a transition, I'll say it this way, for a lot of advisors that are like, okay, I'm not an expert at all the potential questions I'm going to get about estate planning decisions. And so how was that intimidating to you, that how do I do these conversations, or did you feel in your initial confidence in bridging this conversation to say, let's talk through what you would want your estate plan to accomplish?
Yeah, thankfully I felt pretty confident in terms of the estate planning. A lot of the pieces that I wasn't as confident about was kind of more the health questions, which I think is very personal to each person, but being able to at least provide clients with enough information to be able to like answer these questions and what they would want. So the very first plan I did with you guys was for myself. I wanted to make sure like, hey, how is this going to work for me? Am I going to be comfortable answering these questions? How would I answer these questions? And your guys is your questionnaire and your explanation of, especially again, like the healthcare and durable power of attorney and additional healthcare wishes, laid out very well and easy to explain to clients, and just letting them even read it themselves is super helpful.
So you were able to kind of, after your first plan, doing your plan, seeing the output, understanding the impact of how you would think about those things. Tell me then from there kind of how you began to engage clients with, sometimes the question is, how do I even position this versus going to an attorney or doing it online for yourself? How was it that you began to even position the, hey client, here's a new option for you. Would this be a path you want us to help you to get through this procrastination problem?
Yeah. So, in general, the way we do meetings is generally we have review meetings 2 to 3 times a year with clients. And so in our review meeting, we basically have a very robust like meeting deck that goes into the 6 key areas that I mentioned with you, including estate planning. And that's kind of the last piece that we have in our agenda. So it's also nice because it segues into, hey, this is what we talked about. What are the next steps now? So I would talk about what is a will versus like a trust, and then what are their options, right? So clients people can still actually DIY, do it yourself. There's lots of these websites that you can just download forms, do it yourself. And then of course we all know about like going to an attorney, still send clients to referrals. But really going through the questionnaire that you guys have in terms of, hey, how much assets do you have? Are you of sound mind? All these questions to determine if Encore would be a good fit for them. Yeah. And then saying, here's another alternative to that. And for a lot of my clients, it wasn't just like it was a very affordable versus going to an attorney, but it's also, hey, I've been working with Vieng for some of these clients 20 years, right? 20 plus years. We've been talking about estate planning,
getting around to it,
procrastinating about it, or we did it so long ago when the kids were still minors and now they're adults and we haven't reviewed it. And I trust and value Vieng a lot, and she's going to help me walk through this process. Absolutely, like no brainer, right?
Yeah. That, it's so true. What we say is that the best client experience for estate planning absolutely has the advisor involved in it. You're there, that it is that trusted relationship. Now they trust you, but they also know, and there's kind of an element that maybe comes up for you. We talk about it a lot, is unauthorized practice of law. You're not there in an environment where you can give them legal advice. You can fulfill the operator of software, the guidance to knowledge base and resources that help them with their questions. How do you explain that to clients too, that you're not in a position to answer and give them legal advice, but you can help educate them, you can help facilitate for them? How do you kind of set that up as a part of you staying in your proper lane?
Yeah, it honestly, it's pretty straightforward. I just say that to them. As you guys know, I've been your financial advisor for years. I'm not an attorney. I can't give you legal advice. These are the resources and things that we can help you with to create your documents. But if you have legal questions, those are not things that I can help with, right? Yeah. Now, and most of the clients, again, your guys' process makes it so straightforward and easy that usually there's not a lot of those that come up. So
how is there ever, what would you think the experience is? One of the things that we hear from advisors is that, if it's somebody you've worked with for 20 years, but maybe it's somebody you have a depth of relationship and really a deep connection with them. But if it's somebody who's newer into your business, do you find the estate planning conversation is adding depth to the relationship? Maybe even with both partners, and what are the dynamics there as you're asking thinking, these are intimate questions. These are things that aren't fun. I don't want to think about death today. It's Tuesday. And I just want to get this over as fast as possible. What are you finding about the conversation that's maybe unique or different? Maybe it's not to what you do, but, share with me your thoughts on that.
For me personally, I have seen a shift in clients' thinking since COVID. Like prior to that, a lot of clients wouldn't want to think about it, don't want to think about it. And maybe to a certain extent, they still don't. But with COVID, we're recognizing that, yeah, even if we don't want to think about this, look at all the problems that we can create down the road for our, significant other, that surviving spouse or kids, if we don't take the time now to actually address that. So it's not saying that by addressing it, that we think that there is going to be imminent death or anything like that.
Sure.
We're just basically like being very planful and helping our clients, or our kids, because it's already difficult enough from an emotional standpoint to lose a loved one. Now let's, add on top of that all these financial decisions and financial things that need to be made that could stretch out the process. Yeah. Why not try to make it as simple as possible?
You talked earlier about avoiding probate. And so one of these pieces and maybe a lot of clients who years ago got a will or maybe got a trust. I don't know if you're using us for the deed filing to make sure properties get moved into trusts. Absolutely. But is that a gap? We hear from a lot of advisors, that's a gap for people who've even gone to attorneys and paid a few $1,000s for documents. So talk about that in context of helping the client, really avoid probate, because the trust alone does not avoid probate if you haven't put anything in it. And right. So maybe speak to that benefit or how you go about that.
I even had a particular client, and we all are familiar with this, right? You have you work for a large organization and they have those prepaid legal services where then you could pay me, it'll be a little bit extra if you want to do a trust versus just a basic will. So I had a newer client 3 years ago that had done that a few years ago, probably 2 years before I started working with them. And one of the questions that I always ask when clients have a revocable trust is, okay, did you get it funded? Did you get the deed work done? Did you get the bank accounts done? And we discovered through, different avenues, contacting the county, all these different things that did not happen, right? And they didn't even realize that that was a gap. So I think it would have been okay if they would have realized that and maybe they just procrastinated and didn't get around to it. But they literally just thought everything was good to go and that it would avoid probate. So just being able to uncover those really brings awareness that a lot of times, and same thing, I've had clients that have gone through attorneys and we find that the deed work was not done. So being able to add that extra layer and making it super easy, frankly, right? There's other services on there. So, we talked about Trust and Will online, but they won't help with the deed work. And that's such an integral part of the estate planning process. This trust means nothing if you actually don't fund it.
Yeah. You're helping me think of something that might be a product feature that's pinging in my head when you were talking about that. Is most of the clients, do they know if their property is moved into the trust or not? If it is, do they go, oh yeah, of course I know it is. Anything I get from the county about my house, or are they like, I don't know if it is or isn't?
So many times I'm like, what is that? What does that mean? I don't know. And so we have to dig in. Like a lot of times I'll okay, bring your annual property tax statement. Let's see what that says. Cause when you guys did mine, right. My property tax statement, now says, Vieng Bounnam, trustee of the Bounnam family trust. Right. So now I know it's in the trust. So yeah, having to uncover that because a lot of clients didn't even realize that was either happening or not happening, for them.
I'm going to take something back to my product team on this question, because how cool would it be within Encore if you could search up, because we can pull deeds. We subscribe to a service that allows us to do that. And we could tell you in minutes if that client's house is in a trust name or not. And wouldn't that be a cool service if you just pinged Encore and you were able to say, is this person's house at this address in their trust? And we could ping you back and go, yep, or nope. That would be
a time saver. shorter, because there have been times where it's taken us weeks, and having the client go back and forth, try to figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, good. Thank you. You got me thinking of, if they don't know right at the top of their head, what if you could find out for them and tell them, that it's not, and we could teach that. That's great. And then kind of the feeling of that procrastination, once it's all solved, the benefit to your organization and kind of the relationship with the client with that peace of mind, how are you feeling like that impacts, the quality and depth of the relationships you have, the stickiness of these relationships staying with you? Maybe speak to that a little bit for advisors who are wondering, is it worth it to do the work? Because there's extra work here for you. Talk through the end benefit, net effect of, in a certain client situation or any client situation that you feel obviously confident this is worth your time and effort, and because the effects equal blank.
Yeah. I think probably the biggest thing that we're seeing is a couple of things. One, the depth of relationship. Absolutely, right? The clients basically are sharing some even more personal information. They're sharing beneficiary information, which has led to us basically then like, okay, let's bring in these beneficiaries that we know are going to be your power of attorneys down the road, because you've put that in these documents. And some of those beneficiaries, power of attorneys, have turned into clients, right?
Wow.
Then as our clients age, I have one particular client, for example, that she's at the point where she's like, I don't want to, I'm with it still. I don't want to manage this on my own. I've got this trust. I've got this backup trustee. They're your clients too now. So you work with them, not on their stuff too, but on my stuff too, right? Yeah. If that client, that kid was not our client, I could easily see where they're like, okay, we're somewhere else, and let's bring mom and dad's assets over here, because mom and dad don't want to worry about it anymore, and we're going to be managing it, and we have a financial advisor, so of course we're going to use our financial advisor.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh, absolutely.
We preach that, and it's fun to hear, the reality of that effect of stepping into this gap, solving for that need that really, we know your clients aren't here anymore. We could all say it's not our problem if we don't have documents in place, but it's the next generation that's going to pay the price for not having those documents and not having them funded right. And we're involving them in the process and the conversation. I've personally had the experience with my father when he passed away. He could have communicated a lot more things that would have been helpful. But you even facilitating some of that then builds the next generation relationship and gives you that opportunity to continue to work with the same assets in different hands, right? In the next generation. That's exciting to hear.
Yeah. And like one client in particular that unfortunately passed away, I think fairly young. He was in his early 70s, gone through this process. Their kids his kids weren't that old, right? They're in their 40s. Okay. So they didn't have a lot of assets. Most of their assets were with their current employer. We just had small accounts here because he was gifting money to them. So that's how they became a client. But now, after he passed away, just seeing like the work that I did and helping their dad set up the estate planning, we were able basically to retain 100% of the assets that they inherited. They were like, we value your relationship and the way that you've worked with our dad, and to help him get to this point, we want to stay with you as the advisor. So you hear the statistics is very, very low where a client passes away, and if you're not working with their kids, it's like I don't even know what it is, like 90% or something like that.
Exactly.
Probability that the assets go out.
Yep.
Oh.
And you've just said it. That's an incredible story. And we see and hear from our advisors all the time that retention is higher. You're never going to have 100% within that realm, but you're improving that. And it's really, and you think about this too, and you were obviously there, that, at that most critical moment when we have a loved one pass, a parent pass, and now we're trying to figure out what to do. But then the advisor is there to say, hey, we've set up, these things. We have this in place. You're in that role. You can't totally do everything for them. And maybe if there's complexity, maybe they need an attorney in the administration side. But when you've dialed it in and they're not in probate and you are aware of the decisions that their parents made, that you just made their life so much easier with great planning, man, the probability must dramatically improve.
Yes, absolutely.
And you've seen that firsthand. And yeah, this is the power of, having, longevity in this business. Is the future of this is going to be expected for the next generation. It's going to be expected of people that we're stepping into this gap. But this has been awesome. Thank you so much for jumping in with Encore and taking this, seriously, and what we've built this year, precisely what we've done, why we've done what we've done to enable you. You're the one that I'm hoping your clients look to you and say thank you. Who cares if they know about Encore or not, or what Encore is? We're grateful that you're able to. They see you as the hero, and finally getting them over those hurdles and having the peace of mind to have truly funded estate plans. Any
Really
last comments?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Really appreciate you guys having the service, be able to offer these to our clients. I think it's been really transformational. And I mentioned in the very beginning, you kind of mentioned our team, right? So I've been out of our team, probably the one that's engaged you guys with the most. Mm-hmm. More than 60 of my clients have utilized your guys' service. And I've got, 150 clients, right? So a pretty big percentage of that. But the rest of my team isn't as familiar, doesn't really know the process. So we are actually going to be sharing this with our team as well.
Awesome. Yeah, these effects, and this is exactly it. It's not as hard and maybe intimidating as many advisors think. This is why we're grateful to have conversations and do this podcast, because you all learning from each other. You don't want to hear from me and our team. You want to hear from each other on how you're doing this, why you're doing it, why it's worth it to make the effort to go through the change that you have to go through, to think differently and engage in new conversations, those pieces. And so we're grateful to advisors like you that are leading the way into really helping the industry do more and deliver more value to your relationships, and having that generational impact. That's the right thing to do, and incredibly helpful, where today people are left to go to a stranger and have it be kind of a transactional thing, or go to a software that they have to figure out on their own. You stepping into the gap is really the key, and we're thrilled to partner with advisors like you that are setting that new standard for what wealth management should be, right? And so thank you for that. And so we'll finish up there. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Advisor's Guide to Estate Planning, our conversation with Vieng. We appreciate your support. Remember, subscribe, leave a review, share with colleagues and friends. For any questions or feedback, email us at info@EncorEstatePlans.com. Thank you again, Vieng. This was an awesome conversation. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt. Take care.